So, religion after the Watchtower. So, first question, who of you have looked at other religions? So, being involved in the ex-Jehovah's Witness community on multiple formats, I've realized something. It seems there's three, which is probably very narrow-minded, but a lot of people that leave the Watchtower Society seem to maintain a Christianity. I haven't at all. The Borg completely ruined my views on Christianity and destroyed it entirely. There's those of us who return to the faiths of our fathers. And yet there are those of us who become atheists, which is entirely understandable. I mean, who needs God, right? And then there are those of us like me who become pagan or Wiccan or more of a folk tradition kind of religion. There's no need for judgment or anything. We've all been through similar traumatic experiences with the Watchtower, Bible, and Tract Society of Pennsylvania. Is it still of Pennsylvania? I don't know. One of the things I did when I did leave the Jehovah's Witnesses is I just read and read and read everything I could find on religions. One of the books I read was Jonathan Kirsch's God Against the Gods, the War of Monotheism and Against Polytheism. It's an interesting book to get started with once you leave. I think a lot of times it's just a matter of deprogramming, and man, is deprogramming hard. I never would have guessed when I was in it that it would be so hard. I was PMO for several years, as when I was still a Jehovah's Witnesses, right after baptism. The love bombing stopped and everything went down the toilet. So I started getting involved in Wicca and paganism and everything. And it was an odd kind of thing. Because I was in the closet 2 times with my gender identity and orientation and not believing a word that the elders were saying. And I had such rage at what they would say. It was so superficial. And I know a lot of us are like that. When you're PMO, you're like, oh my God, what a load of horse dookie. It was crazy. And then you see other brothers and sisters in the congregation just watching it with complete awe and inspiration. It is what it is, I say, but wow. It was complete madness. And they took note. Less and less meetings I'd go to. And then my mother died, and then I got shipped to my uncle, who was the presiding overseer of that congregation. And there goes a car. So I was kind of required to go to every single meeting and field service. It was entirely maddening. And I was reading novels, Star Wars novels, because you couldn't really have anything on Wicca or witchcraft in a house with the presiding overseer. Unless, of course, my 17, 18-year-old self wanted to end up homeless, which I did anyway, through my own personal choice. Thankfully, it didn't last long. But it was just crazy. And atheism is understandable. Go ahead, I love it. Why do I love atheists? Because they do good for no other reason than to do good. I love TikTok because we have such a community of former Jehovah's Witnesses on there. We have people who, from every walk of life, and it's the same here on YouTube, and it's wunderbar. So an ex-Jehovah's Witnesses that practice witchcraft, yes, it's the thing. It's like, well, you told us not to, so we're just going to turn around and tell you we're going to, because what's greater way to rebel, would that be the word? Or to seek one's freedom, not rebellion, to seek freedom from the teachings of the Watchtower, Bible and Tract Society, than to become a pagan or Wiccan or a witch or whatever spiritual flavor you want. We went from having only one type of bland ice cream to having an entire variety. It's like discovering Ben and Jerry's for the first time. So yeah, seek your faith, seek your truth. Do you, boo. I believe that is an expression. But seek your faith. I mean, as an ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, we know we don't want to force anything on anyone. We just want to be left alone to live our lives and to seek the divinity or lack thereof, because we have that now. We have the ability to choose mentally, spiritually, physically. If you want to be on your knees while you pray, go ahead. If you want to pray standing up, or if you don't want to pray at all, you have that freedom. And isn't that a wonderful thing? To finally be able to dictate to yourself instead of having 8 men in New York, is it Warwick, New York, dictate it for you. Be blessed. Seek your truth. Isn't it just something to be thankful for, friends? I had to throw that in there because, you know, they always say that. Friends. Hello, friends. Do you seek Jehovah's light, friends? I actually made a short earlier that said, is new light based on convenience for the governing body? If Samuel Hurd needed a blood transfusion, would he get one? Or if multiple members of the governing body needed blood transfusion, do you think new light would happen? Or do you think they would do it discreetly? That's the question I have. Do you think it's more of a discreet thing and they just do whatever they want, not minding Bottlegate? Or do you think they believe it? I mean, I have a copy of Crisis of Conscience by Raymond Franz. I have not read it yet, and I think that'll have a lot of answers for me. But yeah, that's a question I do have. Do they know what they're teaching is complete baloney, or do they actually believe it? Because I think there's a weird kind of thing between them. I think they're PMO. I think a good number of them know. They're physically in, but they're mentally out. I mean, power's power. So, yeah. Mentally out, but they have the power in the organization, and they'll preach to their dying day that it's the truth. That was the thing I have. But then again, if you don't have to pay taxes and you can preach and be famous to 8 million people, why not? It's like no difference than Joel Osteen or John Hagee or what's her name, Joyce Meyer, these other televangelists. Although I have to admit the governing body could be making a little bit more money. Yeah, it's like they haven't set their goals high enough. Because if they do the whole feel-good Christianity, there'd be more money involved, and they wouldn't look like such hypocrites. I mean, they're going to be freaking hypocrites, but they wouldn't look like it. You know, get rid of this fellowshipping. Make people feel good, at least. Instead of creating this weird us versus them mentality where we're indebted to an organization that hasn't earned the right at all. And some of us seem to have just been forced into this situation. I know I was. It's an odd thing, though. As a child, you can be brainwashed into this and your family leave. And yet that child will remember in their minds that that is the truth. And they'll go back to it. So you can be POMI, physically out, mentally in. My brother is, to an extent, you know. He's conveniently POMI. Physically out, mentally in. Like, only when it's beneficial. It's just an odd little thing. Well, you know, Jehovah's Witnesses will always be the truth. But lately, I've been just saying some things, you know, in passing. I mean, my life's not in line. I'm not going to be homeless for speaking truth about the truth. So, yeah, I've just been dropping small things. I've had a Lloyd Evans channel on the TV in the living room at times, and he was talking about, I think it was one of the conventions. He's like, who is that? I'm like, that's a governing body member. I'm like, they've became televangelists. And he was like, are you serious? I mean, that's how long it's been. Like, what? Televangelism? He's like, looked at me and it's like, well, that's not the organization I knew. And I have heard that repeatedly over and over again. This is not the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society that we have now. There have been a lot of changes since I was in. I left in 2018, which it's been that long. Not 2018, 2008. You know, it all runs together. But I hit 18 and I'm like, see you later, elders, goodbye. You know, because I like to read. And that was like the biggest thing for me in there, reading stuff outside of the organization. Somehow, just reading books, reading novels, Star Wars, Star Trek, is a disfellowshipping offense. How? Makes absolutely no sense. Like, they are that intent on controlling your mind that they don't want you reading Star Trek. But you got to think, if Star Trek will put that in your mind, that there's maybe a better option for humanity's future than being controlled by a cult leader or cult leaders and a tyrannical deity. But this is just like my opinion, dudes. So it is what it is. Seek your truth in your faith. Be blessed. If you like my content, subscribe. Don't subscribe. Like. It is what it is. Have a great night, day, morning, globally, whatever time it is. I hope it's wonderful for you.